Hello, and welcome to the If We Knew Then podcast. I'm Stephen Sachs.
And I'm Lori Sachs.
And today we're joined by Gina Yurikio, creator of Mother Asana, and a book coming out in October, The Art and Voice of Autism.
Gina is a wife and mother of 2 children. Today we discuss mostly her journey with her daughter, Allie, who has autism. One thing I love about this journey is just the connection it provides with other people and hearing their story and their journeys. In this particular case, we were able to learn about the Yurikio family and how Allie and her autism created such a beautiful gift of awareness and presence and art. On their website, you can see some of the artwork that Allie creates and shine. You know, this journey is understood by the people we share it with that are on our journey, because if the outside world isn't yet at a point where they can see all of the gifts, all of the beauty that we in this community are given. And one of the things we discuss is truth and honesty. And we really just jumped right into it. So we hope you enjoy our conversation and connection with Gina Yurikio, Mother Asana.
Hello, Gina.
Good morning, Gina. How are you this morning?
Hi, nice to see you guys.
Good to see you too.
I just want to say I was kind of going through your podcast, and we have so much in common in the topics that you're covering. And Karen Mazon Miller, I don't know if she's a personal friend of yours. How lucky are you? I just am a big fan. I have her books and I follow her blog, and she's been a huge inspiration to me.
She's a pretty outstanding human being. She's one of our favorites.
In our
she's
life,
one of our favorite people, and I will pass that on to her. She is.
Yeah, and some of the other topics and just what you're covering.
I think, you know, we started the podcast because when we received Liam's diagnosis, there was just no hope given to us, and people would also then give us information, really excited about it, and we'd check it out, and it would just be just horrible and devastating. And so we just wanted to pay it forward to where, with the hope that anybody who came behind us wouldn't have that same experience. Like we didn't have any promising stories that were, you know, handed out. And so that's really what we seek out. And we seek out a lot of the information that, you know, that we're still learning. So the podcast has been great because we learn. Like we're learning, but as we're learning, we can pass it on to other people.
Yeah, and it gives us a chance as a couple to kind of talk together too. Like
That's so interesting, because while I was waiting, I was just taking a few contemplative moments, because why not? You know, I find myself sitting here by myself, and I was just writing about taking time, you know, with my husband and the respite. And you know, it's funny, and I know we're going to get started, but the shine and the rays of the sun, you know, as I've been getting more into my discussion about, you know, the art and the voice of autism, is that there's so many aspects in these rays, how this diagnosis brings the family together and angles that you can talk about, like sibling issue, you know, sibling stuff, extended family stuff, you know, just being a caregiver to an adult child now, and being a wife and having a marriage when everybody else is moving on to their empty nest. And, you know, I was speaking in front of a group on Monday, and I was saying, you know, I'm committed to having that for my husband and I too. And in a way that, just like our life is sort of like this beautiful masterpiece of an extension of something different, the way it looks to the people next door, we can have it too. And so can you. And it's like, but I think we're taught, like you were saying, like, and you're giving all this information and you're like, that doesn't serve us. That doesn't serve us. That doesn't serve my son. That doesn't serve my daughter. That doesn't serve my family. I can't operate that way. So, yeah.
I know when we were at the beginning of this journey that with Down syndrome, the thing was we didn't know anything about Down syndrome, and also we didn't know to question it. The people who give you the false information are the people that you think you should trust. You think that they're the professionals, the doctors, the teachers, the school district. You think these are the people who you think they're invested in your child and you think they're invested in their future, but that's not necessarily the situation. I'm not saying that every school district and every teacher, because we've had some great teachers and we now have a great school. But when you're getting the negative towards you, especially at the beginning or maybe just at the beginning, you don't know to question it. You don't know that it's not true. And because it's different and new, that's what causes us to entertain those ideas for so long.
Yeah, and how much your body is in fight or flight through the whole time. And school ends and you're in a system that is set up entirely like, okay, this in Connecticut they call it birth to 3, and then from 3 she's matriculated into the school system till she's 21, and she gets to go like to her birthday through the whole 21 year, there's the 21st year, and then she's out, and then she gets out and you're like, you're back where you were when you were first diagnosed, or when you figured this all, you're figuring it all out, and you start to question the roads that you traveled a little bit, because you listened, how many people you listened to that you probably should have checked in more intuitively with yourself, in which case I did, but there's still things I might have missed, and now you're like, okay, I have to go and let's add that in, and let's add that in. And people I'm sure ask you, will he do this, will she do that, will he, to me, will she do this, and it's like, well, maybe not this year. I may not be we may not be working on that this year. Like, can she cook, can she do this? He's like, you can't do everything all in one day.
They don't ask that of our neurotypical children. We don't get that questioning.
There's plenty of neurotypical kids that
can't
that
make
leave
macaroni
the house
and cheese.
can't do anything.
Right? Can't make a hard-boiled egg.
And
I don't know. I think
laughed
I
off.
just
Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
okay. And I think I want to go back to what you said, because this just happened recently when we finally got out of a school that was really geared against our child, that didn't educate our child or support our child. When we finally got out and now we're in a supportive environment that's actually educating our son, I was overwhelmed with, did I fight too long? What was I fighting for? Did I do the right thing? Was this for Liam? I had all, but I had to remember that, and also our wonderful friend Mazen put it so beautifully, is like, you did the right thing because it's what you did.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to make sure that parents don't get to the end of something and then find a truth or a new way or a new possibility and doubt what they did, because I believe that we're always doing our very best for our children. Whatever that looks like, we are doing our best. Whatever we decide our focus is going to be is what is right for our family and our child and for us, and for the longevity of the journey together of life, of that moment. And it's just not really helpful to look back and beat yourself up, because maybe if you had different information, you would have done something differently, but that was the information that you were given at the time.
Right.
And we do our best. And the thing is with a neurotypical child, you're not meant to question. I mean, I can get to my daughter and say, and look back and go, oh, did I do that right? Have I been doing this right? And I think I just had this moment about her recently, because she's almost 15, and I started to second guess, but it didn't weigh nearly as much as how I felt with my son when I got to the end and berated myself as if it would weigh more, but it doesn't. And I just want to make sure that sinks in for parents, that we're doing our best. And it's not fair that we're doing our best against a system that isn't always geared towards supporting our children or our children doing their best. That's not fair, but it's how it is. And when there's something new, to be able to sit in the new and move forward from there, taking the information, obviously, that we learned, we can take that information and let it, give us insight to different situations, but just to not beat yourself up about, did I support enough? And all of these things that go through my head.
Yeah. And I mean, I think as a family too, you kind of have to look at situations that you find yourself in as a group and individually, and how as a mother or a father you're making decisions, and you just keep showing up when you really think in the path of the open heart. That's really what it's been for me. It's just I keep showing up and in the present moment, and also like to become the student when I'm sure I'm the teacher.
Hmm.
And that is really like, I'm the boss of her, but she's the boss of me. We do this little dance all day long, right? And what is she teaching me? What is she teaching all of us? How can I incorporate that and not be sure that I know that I am for sure. You go through these 22 years where, what you resist persists to some extent. And when I first learned about Allie was autistic, I was like, I can't learn. I'm going to learn about this now. Like, it's that Welcome to Holland poem. You guys familiar with it?
We've talked about it several times on
Yeah.
on
So,
the podcast.
but I'm just saying, for me as Gina, as this woman who went to college and, had dreams and stuff. And then I was like, this is that. And she's our first child. And I'm like, okay, I'll learn. And then you have those years go by and you're like, I'm learning this now. I'm learning it, and all of a sudden now I'm looking back and it's been 24 years of an education that was given to me through the gift of the path of mine and my family's and Allie being here. And that's why I created Mother Asana, because I was like, I just want to expose this so, everybody can learn and just find new ways. And again, like you were saying, not beat up on yourself. We're sort of like this washing machine where we go in and through like a 15-minute cycle, we get spun, tossed, whipped around, and then you're put into the dryer and you're kind of fluffed up and you come out and you're neatly ironed. And we go through these like, behavior incidents where we're like, she's flipping out, and then my energy and my, the family or the people, everybody wants to fix and please and help. And then she comes out of it and she's like, oh, I'm good. And I'm like, I can be good too, just like you.
Yeah.
Like I can be smoothed out as well. And that's the hard thing about the behavior piece and the autism, the world sensory processing and the world is just so big and how she goes out there and tries her best. And that's why I took her artwork Shine and said she goes out into the world and shines her light and gives her best self every day, just like some of the really wonderful, great people that we know that do that every day, but not everybody is out there in the world doing it. And she is getting judged and she's getting looked at and stared upon, but she doesn't care. She is shining. She is like beyond with the light. She's like, I'm just forging through. If you're going to learn from me, learn from me. If not, let me pick out my chocolate milk. And, let me have my coach help me grocery shop and wait in line and try to do my thing. Let me just quietly go ahead. And I'm sorry if I'm taking up your time, but I'm shining right now because I'm learning and I'm participating in the world and I'm trying.
I think society forgets its manners, or they don't feel like they have to have manners, because the first thing I know, one of my first lessons growing up is don't stare at people. Don't stare. And I did read an article one time where someone had said, a mom had said there was a child staring at their child, and the mom said, don't stare or don't ask anything. And that particular mother said, no, ask. Like, just don't, ask. I think it's different for every parent. I think it depends on what your situation is. But one thing I do it's so funny that you talk about that your daughter's there and she's shining and she doesn't care, but you probably care, Gina. I felt like I always carried the weight. It took me such a long time to get to that place where I was like, he doesn't care. Why do I care? And I shouldn't say you probably care. I was just guessing from like when you were talking. It affects you as a parent, right? It affects you to see, because you're seeing the other people judge. You're seeing the looks. And you're seeing all of that, and it affects you. And then I forget when it was where I was just like, you know what? he doesn't care. Like I did that with my daughter once when she was very little. And I just kept like talking to this person that I thought was her friend. And Sophia didn't really seem to care. And I realized it was because that person actually wasn't being kind to her. But my caring so much about it probably made it worse.
I think it's the pleasing aspect. I mean, as women, you don't have to be a woman to be a pleaser. I mean, just like in Mother Asana, you don't have to be a mother to follow us. Everyone has the motherly qualities in them. But I think it's the pleasing aspect, and it involves control as well, a little bit, and sort of just not manipulation, but just trying to kind of shape shift the environment. And you know as well as I know, it's all moving energy. And then, like I said about the washing machine, when you're in the dryer and then you're out and you're like, I feel great, or she gets in the car and she's like, woohoo, and you're just like, I'm sweating, I'm stressed out, I have to go home. And I started to teach myself and practice, like, how am I going to find this in the moment to, because these are fleeting moments, and these are the moments that I'm enjoying with my daughter, that, she's picking up the chocolate milk or the milk, or she's picking her favorite snack. She's reading from her list, and we're out here, we're doing it live. And so, I like to talk about the work because the work is live. I mean, we talk about it as parents, and, because we like to have these conversations, but what we do is out there in the world, and we're living life out loud.
I was just thinking when you were talking about like your daughter and she's there with her list, like how would it feel for me if I had my grocery list and I had people really paying attention to like how many times do I have to pull up my grocery list, or how many times do I have to reach out? Like what if I was aware that I was under a microscope of my actions, like how I was able to do something, because we all function on different levels every day.
Yeah. And I know, like, as we speak about the yoga or meditation aspects of things, not everybody's like following that, but I just decide every day, in every moment, again, beginning again, like this is the path for me and her and my husband, and for as long as we're together in this unit. And my mind can travel, and want to be pulled and be like, I want to be like them. And I want to be like that. And I want Allie to do that. And I want this to happen. But then we also do that for our typical children, So then I started to mold everything together, and I'm like, I'm just going to create the life I wish existed and let it go, and stop kind of looking over and saying, well, why can't John and I have this respite time? Maybe we don't have an empty nest, but we have a different situation where it involves a whole lot of beauty, a whole lot of love, a whole lot of fun. And we have to work on, making schedules and taking off and caregiving. And that's part of what I'm really, really good at. Somehow I became really, really good at this.
I feel like it breaks down to everyone, no matter anyone's situation, with kids, without kids, behaviors, no behaviors, just everyone has a life that cannot be predicted. We love to, as children, dream about our lives and what it's going to be and what I'm going to be when I grow up and when am I going to get married and what am I going to do? And we have all these dress-up ideas. And then when we live our lives that are completely unique from everyone else's, there's a transition of, did I take the right job? I have this health problem. Did I marry the right person? And then our kids and everything that comes into it. Well, when you have your life, you know the immense value of your life. You know your immense value that you get from your child. It may take time to live in your shoes for a second, but people at the supermarket don't do that. They will not invest the time because they honestly don't see a life different from theirs having value. So it's the people that you see that take time to reach out to someone that's homeless and talk to them, and you realize they're a human being. There's value. Reach out to someone that's of a different religion and culture that you've just like shined away from because you don't understand the immense value of their culture. Or looking at a child with disability and saying, There's an amazing amount of value here.
Mm-hmm.
And that is what I find Liam has taught me, is to take the moments to find the value in the places that I never thought there was value. Because I had a preconception of what a valuable life was.
Yeah. And I think they teach us about freedom because they're so free. And we're like, constricted because we have to, teach and do and clean up and do it over again and over again. And, we start to feel like how can we have that, take up that space in the world? That going back to what I said at the beginning of our conversation and thinking about Gina in this body, this person who is living in this lifetime and going forward and feeling free as well, and embodying the beautiful qualities about myself that so many people that love about me, that are what I attract, and feeling that way about myself and having that in my everyday life, and how to feel free and not feel like get lost in a motherhood that involves so much caregiving.
Well, a majority of humans judge every moment of their life, and it's the freedom of not judging yourself every moment.
Right.
Because I see it in my child, and I say, oh, can I do that? Liam will say he's sorry about something, if something went wrong, and he feels bad about it. But then he turns around, and once we say, hey, it's okay, you don't have to worry about it, he gets past it and on, and he's gone, never to think about it again. And can I learn that?
That's practice. That's a practice, and that's catching yourself. And I think that's, a lot of my work with the asana, the asana part of Mother Asana is, how do I sit with presence and purpose, in this pose, and not so much warrior one or sukhasana in a traditional yoga pose, but literally sitting with presence and purpose with this daughter of mine and forging this connection. And then I was figuring out, while I was sitting there, like, motherhood is the highest asana. It is motherhood, parenthood, fatherhood. My husband has it when he's out there, navigating the world with her. My son does it. And, we're doing these practices, and it is just like when you're in warrior one, or you're catching yourself, you're breathing, you're paying attention, you're not leaving your mat to kind of worry about what the person next to you is doing. As a yoga teacher, I'm always teaching, stay with yourself in the confines of your body, but you have a radius of energy that's going to extend anyway into the other person's mat. And they're going to feel that beautiful connectedness because we're all in a shared energy space. But to your point, we're not when we're in the grocery store. You've got and our children have this beautiful aura that we're so lucky to be in the circle of all the time. And how do we stay in that? How do we manage that? And somebody gave me a little piece of advice the other day, because I was feeling frustrated. And I was beating myself up a little bit. And I was like, Gina, even monkeys fall out of trees. And it's like, I can fall out of a tree and just kind of be like, I'm frustrated. I'm upset. It wasn't good, but it's okay. I can begin again.
We put a lot of pressure on ourselves as parents. It's funny that you would say stay on your mat, because that's an easy thing for me to remember. Like, your mat, find your eyes. Not in an isolating way for people who don't do yoga, but in a way that, like, that way you could put your focus on you and your actions and what you're doing. You talked earlier about teacher and student. Well, I mean, our kids, to witness their life, and both equally, my son and daughter. One of the things that I learned was, with my daughter, I was definitely always learning, and she was teaching me. But I might not have seen it that way. I was able to witness her life, and I did see a lot and learn a lot, but I don't know if I put that label on it. Whereas with Liam, I'm aware. I'm so hyper aware. But that's what we do. Like, for us, it's the extra chromosome. If we can diffuse the fact that this extra chromosome is what allows us to be teachers and learners. And just like, I think we have the ability and the insight to come from the inside of our lives and know that that's with every human. Every human in our life, we can learn something from.
Yeah, and exactly what you said. I mean, it's just, it's sort of like that bandwidth of how you're going to open yourself up and not stay closed. And when I was talking the other day, I was like, follow us because you're going to love it here because you can come as you are. And this just isn't just about autism. This is just about, like, life is frustrating and grief happens and people die and people get sick and they get better and kids move on to college and they move out and you have an empty nest and then you're crying, and you're consoling your friend who's like, they'll come back or you'll find new ways to communicate with them. And so it is for everyone what we're talking about, because we've taken these beautiful nuggets in our lives and just like I said, the rays of the sun. And there's so many different things that happen. I mean, I'm sure you guys have had other things happen to you besides Down syndrome in your family. Maybe not of the highest teachable moments, but you've lost people who are near and dear to you. You've had tragic things happen to you, of maybe not to yourself, but to people who are close to you. I just recently lost my father. I mean, things change and you grieve. I was diagnosed with breast cancer 9 years ago. That was another time for me where I was like, okay, this is interesting. How, I'm not going to be here forever, perhaps. I don't, obviously we all know that, but it makes you look at things in such a different perspective. And especially lately with the death of my father, the preciousness of people do die and they go. And how are you going to spend your time and how are you going to embody that freedom and feel good for yourself, Gina? Because Allie's out there. I'm creating this universe for her where she's living her best life. I mean, I've got coaches for her, a couple really wonderful girls. She's got a day program that she goes part-time to. The other days she does some life skills. She has to do her exercise. She has to do her little bit of grocery shopping. She's got to clean up, she's got to give back, through her mother asana stuff with her art. She can have her pleasurable times, but she's out there living her best life. All of the qualities of things that are things that I personally too want to take on with my life. So when I started seeing how I was setting up her life, I was like, why can't I have to have that too? Or that's not serving myself, kind of like that loving kindness meditation or the oxygen mask, analogy. But I have to, may I be well. May I be free from fear. May I know peace in my body and mind. May I feel safe. As I send her out into the world, may you be well, may you know, peace, may you, be happy, may you be free. But what would happen is she was and then I would be like, okay, that's great, but wait, what about Gina? Again, what about me? My husband had a different, journey because he was always kind of out and working. I was at home and I had all this creativity because I'm a creative person. And I was like, well, you get resentful when you're not creating. And that was just it. I mean, it wasn't like I didn't become a hard person, but I was like, there's so much in me that I know been a part of me for so long, but how can I merge this world? Because this is, like you said, Stephen, this is my life. So how can I find these beautiful pockets that are my life that I'm living every day and really like go live? And it takes a lot of courage, to go out there and do it because you're going to be seen. But after I lost my father too, I was like, you want to live and every moment is so precious. So if I can show and teach and grow and be a part of that community, I'm destined for it, obviously.
Allie has autism. there are a percentage of children with Down syndrome who also have autism. We don't have a personal insight to that journey. So I appreciate you coming on and sharing and talking to us about that journey. And we've just talked about so much stuff, just about being a parent. And I do want to clarify that I don't put the extra chromosome on the same page as, a death or cancer. That's how it was presented to me when Liam was first diagnosed. I'm fortunate that through the years, you start to forge your own path and you see the gifts and those opinions or thoughts, just like probably any exterior thought that you get that comes your way, you understand that those come from people who really don't have insight into who your child is.
Like a diagnosis, it was something to mourn. And I thought at the diagnosis, would I be mourning this for my entire life?
Well, because you received that article, the Holland one, which
we did talk about.
We've talked about this a couple times on different episodes, but it helps a lot of people that article. For us, it just made me so mad. I was just
you both feel though part of it too is the societal norm, that death or that fear or that, all that stuff, like, which is why, the three of us are having a conversation today to say, it's not that way. How many times have people said to me, I don't know, when Allie was young or when, well, that's your cross.
Yeah, right.
Oh my
right.
gosh.
And I'm like, what?
Or to mourn the child that you don't have.
I mean, what, my cross? I'm like, listen, my grandmother, rosary beads, everything, Italian family,
I think the appropriate answer to that is no, you're my cross.
right in this moment.
In this moment, you and your lack of knowledge, but boldness and comment, you're my cross, because I'm going to dig real deep and decide how I'm going to answer this.
To be honest, people don't know what to say, and it's a blurb that they're just passing on through generations.
I think we can all say that, like, historically, any difference, I think we can look around society now and see, like, everybody's finding their voice. Like diversity, inclusion, those are real things. And that gives me hope for my child, because in that diversity, in that inclusion is my child.
Totally.
It's not just one thing that's good and acceptable. We are all so diverse. And that gives me so much hope for my child in the world. I know that it's been evolving for a very long time, maybe too long. I'm thankful that we are at the place now that I feel like actually forging the acceptance and openness to all of our differences.
I think it's the ancestral generational stories too, where we have to kind of shed and discard and keep what we want. But this is our generation.
Oh yeah.
That, I have a group of friends that, does the work, I want to say, and wants that, we even get the extra push from our children. And then the dynamic that we've created, which I'm sure you guys have created, it's just like my family, the dynamic in my family. And then, you're always educating your extended family, I should say, but you can't wait for everybody to come on board. That is going forward what we're committed to doing. That's why I was saying, I'm just committed to doing it not only for everyone to serve, right, but for me to be on this path and to be free and to have that open heart and that open space, because that's what lines up for me, for mind, body, spirit. May not be for another mom with autism or another family with Down syndrome, and they may not be into art or whatever, but for me, this is and back to staying on your mat and staying with it and knowing full well that there are going to be a lot of other things showing up on your mat.
That's what I want to talk about. Is it's like 40 minutes and we still haven't.
I know.
So Gina, you created Mother Asana. What I love about this journey, and I love talking to different parents, because I love to see how something that, a lot of the world would perceive as your cross, right? That they perceive as this challenge. I've seen it help parents to create music, to just to find their voice, to find their strength, to become advocates, to learn to live in the present moment,
to accept all people.
Yeah, I've seen the changes and how something that can be viewed as negative, it's such a gift.
It's overwhelmingly positive.
Maybe it's because of the challenges that we experience and the fights that we have advocating. That's a part of it. It's being in touch with your child's life in a different way, maybe than you experienced with your neurotypical child. I don't know if it's that different, but I think I'm just more aware of it. That really helps me to be present, and also, it doesn't give my life the value. It helps me to see how precious my time is and how precious my life is. I would like to think that my whole life, that was part of me. Like, my life is valuable. I don't know how much time I have here creating my life. But like, since, my daughter, and then since Liam especially, it's like, oh, now I'm going to walk the walk. Like, what is it I wanted to create with my life? What did I want to do with my life? What is of value? And I love talking to different people and seeing how this journey has, like, it's like the diamond that it's created in their life.
Yeah. And the fact that the children are on the journey too. Like, Allie's on the journey, Liam's on the journey. It's sort of like when you go to school and you become an accountant, and you're like, okay, now you go work and you become an accountant. Okay, so that's what you're gonna do. And then you're 30 years old, and then you're like, I don't know if I really like accounting. I think I want to get out of accounting. Like, I'm really interested in whatever. And it's the same thing for Allie. Like, I've set up things for her. She has yoga, that she does love her yoga. She does love her art. She's trying new things. She's trying, other things and other disciplines. And then there's times where Allie said to me, no, I don't want to do that. I don't like it. And I'm like, okay. So it shows up in a behavior, but it's like, okay, you want to take a break. And then sometimes she's just asking for a break. And sometimes she's like, I'm good. I didn't really like that swimming teacher, or I didn't really like that pool, or whatever. However, she's it's manifesting how she's coming out and telling me. But you're constantly listening, and it's like, you get the questions. So you got her set up in this, and you got her set up in this, and you got her set up that. So she'll do that. Like, that's the way society sees it. Okay, so she'll do that. And then will she do that till she's like 40? And you're like, I don't know. Like, I'm doing this right now, and then, we're magical, and we're artists, and we're whatever. And with the freedom, we can do something else really cool in 2 years or 1 year or 6 months. Or you could text me in a year from now, be like, you don't believe what I'm talking about now. Or you guys will be like, Liam find himself in this situation, and we're into skateboarding, and this is where he's living right now, and he could live there for 10 years.
It took me so long to hear what he was saying, because I think it's that the way we do set up the supports, it's a different language. Like, we are crucial and so intricate in the setting up of the supports and what's going to help him to access his potential, that I didn't always listen. And it took me a really long time. It took me too long. It's embarrassing. He's 12 now. So maybe this year, maybe there were times here and there where and it was usually when I was on the outside of the conversation and I could hear other people interacting with him, where I could understand that nobody was listening to Liam. And I would say, guys, what is he saying to you? But it was always when I was on the outside and I could see it. When I was on the inside, I couldn't see myself doing it. And it took two, and I can't remember what they were. It was two pretty big things where he was telling me one thing, and in my mind, I was like, and then after the fact, I'd go, oh, that's what he was telling me. He was telling me this, and I didn't listen. And he was so forgiving. I always say he's so patient with me. So I want to talk about the Mother Asana and Shine. And Allie's art is beautiful. And one thing that I feel like transitions into this conversation is on your website, you talk about, I am her voice and she is my heart. So maybe you can share a little bit about that and your journey and what prompted you to create Mother Asana and what Mother Asana is.
Yeah. So Allie has this gift of creating these beautiful pieces of art. And she also has a gift of interpreting life in many different celebratory situations and also situations of grief and things with one or two words or phrases. So what I tried to do and what I'm still doing is taking pieces of her art and merging them with her phrases of how she interprets celebrations and things that happen to you in life. So the shine image is when she came home with this sun, and I said to her, what is this? And she's like, it's shine. Just shine, mom. Shine. And so then I kept a note of it, and I kind of put it in a folder or whatever. And then when she was young and we had birthdays and stuff, she couldn't stand happy birthday, but she would run around the house with a party hat on her head and she would yell, "Party hats on." And so she created a piece of art with party hats. We call that Party Hats On, but we use party hats on for many celebrations in life, like when you get your driver's license, when you do a good job, when you like went on vacation and you had fun, and she's like, "Party hats on, like, let's go," so there's party hats on. Then we created one where she has a group of people together and they're all holding hands, and she calls that one Together. And I wrote up like a blog about that, and it's like, we're all in this together with COVID. And so how we take these different interpretations of her art and her sayings and use them. I am her voice, and then bringing that as a projection out into the world, showing her beautiful gifts and showing how you can appreciate it just as art, or you can appreciate it just for the saying, or you can stay with us a little bit longer and get even more insight spiritually, or just telling stories. And then how to involve yourself artistically. It's just an invitation to connect with your family in different ways around the kitchen table. And that's what our book is about. It's about the art and the voice of autism, and how we connect all of this art with the different stories of life and what happens to you. For instance, she did a breast cancer ribbon. I think it might be on the front of the website, but it's a breast cancer ribbon. And she calls it "The Sad Is Over." And that's what she said to me when I got a call from my oncologist when I found out there was a time where they were trying to figure out if I needed chemotherapy and this and that, we were going through this big time, and I got this call that I didn't need it. And there was this huge exhale in my house, and she came running up the stairs and goes, "The sad is over." And I was like, oh my goodness, so really listening to her and hearing those ways that she's interpreting life.
When you go over these moments and taking these moments and telling about these moments and living in these moments, it's what we don't do enough.
Yeah.
So many times we're rushing to the next moment. We're saying, "Oh, I'm the accountant now and I'll just do this." Right? And so I got to get all this accountant stuff done, and I'll just, until I retire. And then when I retire, I'm going to just do this. And where are you running to? Where are you rushing to?
I don't want to just pick on accountants.
No, I'm just, no, I only said that because you had brought up that, but I'm saying, but where are you running to? You're running to the end, right? We don't need to run to the end.
It's there. We'll get there.
We can just enjoy each moment.
Yeah.
And that's the interpretations of, if I could explain what Mother Asana is, it's just merging all that together. It's Gina's yoga practice. It's Allie's kind of this beautiful, like magical spiritual way of coming up with these one-liners that just fit perfectly into the stories that make up our lives. The book is The Art and the Voice of Autism. This is the cover with the shine. There's stuff falling out of it because this is like a proof. But it comes out on October 8th. It is a compilation of the insightful pieces of art and the celebrations and occasions that we have in our lives, and through Allie's verses of how she interprets it. And I've taken that and those little quips and those one-liners and her humor and put it into a variety of different stories and ways that you can artistically connect with your family or connect with yourself, or you can be used as a tool for schools, for families, for aunties, for brothers and sisters to connect. But it can also just be used for pure enjoyment and for the mother who just wants to take some insightfulness too for herself.
I love it.
And this is Mother Asana. This is what Mother Asana is.
Yeah, the book, I mean, that's what Mother Asana is, and just espousing sort of the journey of living out in the world and shining. And, shine has become the cornerstone because we put it on the t-shirt, we put it on some of the merchandise. The other pieces of merchandise that we do some greeting cards where I do the different sayings, and in each of like the party hats on is birthday card, or can be when you get your license. I'll give it away like when people graduate from preschool or graduate from here, there have a really awesome moment in their lives. We're all in this together can be something where you're going through a hard time. The sad is over can be many different things. She has a watercolor that we do, may all beings be free. So there's all sorts of different musing one-liners type of things that have connection to all of our lives, whether you're, like you said, in the world of Down syndrome, autism, special needs or not. We're very relatable. And you may find us because you love art and you appreciate art. You may find us because you have an autistic child. You may find us because you're a mother struggling to mother in a house that houses autism. But you don't have to be any of those things to be with us, because we just recognize that all of us as humans here are just going through stuff just like we do. And that's what our book is really about.
And that comes out in October?
Yeah, I'm actually going to launch it on my dad's birthday.
Beautiful.
That's great.
For people who don't take yoga, can you define what an asana is?
So asana it's a Sanskrit term. It's a matter of sitting with presence and purpose in a variety of yoga postures. And so I merged the motherhood part with asana. As I explained before, the motherhood, it can be one of the highest asanas of sitting with presence and purpose in a pose where you're just sitting at your kitchen table trying to connect with your child. And I don't mean just my special needs child. I mean any child. Anybody who is parenting out in the world today knows that sitting with presence and purpose in front of your child is a really hard thing to do. And so when you find yourself in yoga poses, you can get really frustrated because you have to remember so many different things. You've got to remember to breathe. You've got to remember to stay present. You've got to find your feet and ground yourself. And so it's a learning curve, but it's part of the whole essence of the asana.
I look at Allie's artwork and her quotes, and the word honest comes to mind. It just seems so honest, and that could also be truthful. And I think that living in the moment is truthful. It's an honest place to be. It's where we're actually meant to be. I think we just get so caught up sometimes in what we're supposed to do or judgment of ourselves and others that we get away from this honest place.
Yeah, the real authenticity of, being yourself. And I think, like you were saying, we're getting closer to that, recognizing all the different types of people there are and who's becoming who and how they're presenting themselves to the world. And it comes with being your authentic self and just lining yourself up in that authentic place. It's not like this easy, even though it's like a few steps to my front door to leave, to get into my car and go out into the world, it takes work. I mean, there's resistance. That's the practice. You don't have to be a yogi, but you come back to that place. I talk about it in terms of yoga because that's how it works for me. But you come back to this place where I can try. Parents, we want to try new things with our kids. And then we're kind of like, John will be like, I think we're ready. And I'll be like, you guys might be ready. I don't know if I'm ready, or do you want to take her on that long flight? I'm not so sure. Do you want to drive? And it's like, no, maybe we shouldn't go. And then it's kind of like, okay, well then how are we going to have this experience? Does Allie want this experience? Will Allie learn from this experience? What does she need versus maybe what we need as parents? I'm kind of going off to the side, but these are all the things that I talk about in my stories in the book. Is I find myself walking with her and I'm already like, well, let's look for this. And she's like, I don't want to look for that. Let's just keep walking. I'm like, oh, okay, well, let's walk. That's right, we're on a walk. Mommy wants to go off to the side. Mommy wants to try more. Mommy wants to keep going. Mommy wants to push. Mommy wants to see. Mommy, maybe I want to test. And then from the outside, I get my son and my husband, just let her be, don't try so hard or whatever, so I'm not perfect in any way, but it's the practice that brings me back. And then also the softness that I give myself, which when you're in an asana, when you're in a yoga posture, you want to be firm, but you want to be soft. So you want to find this beautiful middle space and you need to breathe. So don't forget, while you're in Warrior One, you're pushing the energy in two different directions. You're using the strength of your body. You're pulling up from the earth, the energy. So use that too. But don't forget to breathe. And then don't clench. How about your jaw? Let's loosen up and be in that moment. And that's just one pose.
Well, when you mentioned yoga early on, that was really what helped me process things, because if I didn't have words or things were on the outside physically, just even when you discuss Warrior One, you're being pulled in two different directions. You're trying to be grounded and firm foundation and also lift up. I think that describes parenthood to a T. Like for any parent, I think that, and you talk about the asanas, and I've always felt that, if I could take it off of my mat, because that's what they always say in class, take this off of your mat. And when I do apply that, just remembering to breathe, to be present, and to accept where I am today, not where I was yesterday, not where I want to be, but where we are today. I love the mother asana. I think you're absolutely true. It's a parent asana, or caregiver asana. The truth is, being present and also being kind to yourself. We do judge ourselves so much as parents. Any parent whatsoever judges themselves and their decisions, or most. There are some that are very confident in everything that they do. And I just wish I had like a tiny bit of that. But as parents, most of us, or at least I know, I'm constantly second guessing myself. And I love the thought of being gentle with yourself and being present on the journey. Like, look at what you're giving your child, how you're setting them up for success, how you're supporting them, and taking that moment to do it for yourself, because you do have to put your oxygen mask on first. We forget that. We will wear ourselves to the ground. We will not eat. And we feel like that's what we have to do. I'm famous for that in this house. No, I've got to push through. And you're not really helping anyone, because, I think about the lessons when I treat myself like that compared to how I'm supporting other people. What am I teaching in that moment to my daughter or to my son?
Yeah.
Well, I'm really looking forward to the book coming out. People will be able to get it through your website, correct?
Yep, people will be able to get it through the website, and they'll be able to get it through bookstores, Amazon. So that'll be good. And we have our merchandise. We have a smaller shop of her Shine stuff, which just seems to resonate with everyone. And then her greeting cards. You can find us there and on Facebook and Instagram and out in the world, living and doing good stuff.
So motherasana.com.
I've really enjoyed talking to you. I mean, I feel like there's always so much more that we can learn if we just take time to sit down and talk to each other. And this has been just such a lovely conversation this morning, and I want to thank you.
It was a pleasure.
Please follow us on Twitter at If We Knew Then Pod, and you can drop us a line on our Facebook page at If We Knew Then Pod, or visit our website, ifweknewthen.com, to send us an email with questions and comments. And you can join our mailing list there and get alerts of future podcast episodes. All these links will be added to this episode's show notes. Thank you again, and we look forward to you joining us on the next episode of If We Knew Then.